I'd like to see you change from this thought. Change from seeing yourself as separate to seeing yourself as connected to everyone and everything in the universe. Our ego tells us that we are separate, that who we are is this body that we have, and everybody out there is separate from me. Nothing has been more profound and more powerful and important for me than this verse of the Tao Te Ching. This idea that we are all one. That all of us emanated from the same source. And by doing so, by emanating from the same source, we need to see ourselves as connected to every single being, every single person, every single flower, every single tree, every single animal. If you can see yourself in everyone, we're all connected. It makes about as much sense to me to have a smoking section in a restaurant as it does to have a peeing section in a swimming pool, right? Oh, no, kids, no, don't pee over here. We pee over here. Does that make any sense? The Native Americans, one of my favorite quotes, I've used it many, many times. The Native Americans would say, "No tree has branches so foolish as to fight among themselves." No tree has branches so foolish as to fight among themselves. We are all branches on a tree called humanity. When you read the Tao, when you read this idea about changing these thoughts and changing your life, you're going to see endless verses that speak to the absurdity of the idea of you having an enemy. The idea that you and anyone else on this planet is an enemy. In the Tao it says, I and enemy cannot exist in the same sentence. And he said, even those who go to war, the ones who will triumph in war are those who go to war without an enemy. And they will treat every victory in war not as something to celebrate, but as a funeral, as an indication that we haven't reached the highest place within ourselves to see that even those people that we judge to be our enemy are really connected to us. And it says in the Tao that a bad man is a good man's job, and a good man is a bad man's teacher. A good man is a bad man's teacher. So finding that and seeing that, listen to verse 10. Carrying body and soul and embracing the one, can you avoid separation? One who heeds this power brings the Tao to this very earth. This is the primal virtue. This was so helpful to me as I thought about it. Remember, I spent 4.5 days on each one of these verses. And in each one of those 4.5 days, I wasn't writing. I wrote the last 4 or 5 hours of those 4.5 days. For 4.5 days, I took that verse and I went out into the world and I looked at everyone that I encountered, everyone that I saw, and I tried to see myself in them. The person that was, dressed differently than I would dress, the person who was not as attractive, the person who was very old, the person who was very young, the person who used language particularly that was possibly offensive, when I would look out there and I would practice not judging. Because the only difference between a flower and a weed is a judgment, isn't it? It's just a judgment. It's just a judgment. And if we want to end violence in our lives and in our society, we have to learn to change our thoughts. In a world that never stops moving, stillness becomes the rarest form of wisdom. We are taught to chase, to climb, to hustle, to conquer. But the soul, your eternal essence, is not impressed by noise. It doesn't race. It doesn't strive. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And in the hush between your thoughts, in the quiet after the questions, that's where the soul begins to speak. Clarity is not something you achieve. It's something you remember. You were born with it, wrapped in simplicity, bathed in presence, untouched by confusion. But as the world's volume turned up, as expectations piled upon you like bricks on the chest of your spirit, the clarity was buried beneath it all. Not lost, just waiting. Waiting for you to be still enough to feel it again. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of awareness. It is the moment when you are no longer doing life, but being life. And in that being, the fog lifts. You begin to see, not with the eyes, but with the heart. Not with logic, but with knowing. The kind of knowing that doesn't require proof because it is truth. Most people confuse clarity with answers. They think they'll feel clear once they figure it all out, once the past is explained, the future guaranteed, the pain justified. But clarity is not born in solving. It is born in surrender. When you stop clenching the steering wheel of your life so tightly, when you stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world, something miraculous happens, peace walks in. And where peace goes, clarity follows. Let us remember the truth known by sages and saints. You are not here to figure life out. You are here to feel it, to open to it, to soften into it like water returning to the sea. The need for control is the ego's obsession, but the soul has no such hunger. It doesn't need to control. It already belongs. It doesn't need to prove it already is. It doesn't need to race. It already rests. Your inner chaos is not because life is chaotic. It's because you've been avoiding the sacred space within you, the silence. You've been filling every crack in your day with noise, distraction, validation. But clarity doesn't rise through effort. It rises through stillness. It doesn't come from pushing. It comes from pausing. And in that pause, you meet yourself again. You were never meant to carry the world on your shoulders. The world is not yours to control. It's yours to experience, to love, to witness, and to let pass through you like wind through an open field. When you sit in stillness, you remember this. You remember that life is not a storm to be survived, but a breeze to be felt. And in feeling it fully, you return to the truth that you were never disconnected, just distracted. Distraction is the greatest thief of clarity, not because it takes something from you, but because it turns your gaze away from what was always there. Like the sun hidden behind clouds, your light never left. It was only obscured by thought, fear, busyness. And when you finally get still, the clouds part, not all at once, but gently, respectfully, like a curtain rising to reveal your own divinity waiting patiently behind the veil. The stillness does not shout, it does not force, it invites, and it waits, always waits for you to accept. Not when the to-do list is done, not when the circumstances are perfect, but now in the breath you are taking. Now in the space between your thoughts. Now in the sacred pause where the mind rests and the soul wakes. And in this waking, something changes. You stop asking life to be different. You stop begging the moment to become something else. You begin instead to listen. To listen not with your ears, but with your entire being. You begin to hear the language of the soul, the language of stillness, and it tells you what no amount of striving could ever reveal. That you are safe, that you are loved, that you are already whole. Stillness is not a task. It is a homecoming, a return, a remembrance of who you were before the world told you who you should be. It is the falling away of every label, every mask, every identity constructed from fear. And as it all falls, what remains is essence. What remains is God not outside you, but in you. As you, moving through you, breathing you, being you. And in this sacred space, clarity is no longer something you seek. It becomes what you are. Let the world keep spinning. Let the chaos outside dance its wild, unpredictable dance. You don't need to control the storm. You only need to find the eye of it, the center. And that center is always still, that center is always you. So sit, breathe, be, and in that stillness, let the illusions dissolve. Let the old stories, the ones that said you're not enough, not worthy, not capable, let them fall like leaves in autumn, no longer needed for the soul's blooming. You are not your past. You are not your fear. You are not the noise of the world. You are the silence beneath it. You are the space between the notes, the rhythm that gives the music its meaning. You see now why clarity cannot be forced? Why it resists the grasping of the mind and instead flows through the openness of the heart? Because clarity is not information, it is transformation. It does not fill you, it empties you. And in that emptiness, you finally feel light enough to rise. You become like a feather surrendered to the wind, not passive, not powerless, but free. Free from the illusion that you need to have it all figured out. Free from the belief that healing requires effort. Free from the ego's insistence that you must earn peace. You don't earn peace. You return to it. You don't achieve clarity. You allow it. And all of it begins in stillness. So if you are weary, sit. If you are confused, sit. If you are broken, grieving, lost, overwhelmed, sit. Not to escape, not to avoid, but to arrive. Stillness is the most radical arrival. It is where you meet life without agenda, where you stop trying to be anything and remember you are already everything. In stillness, the soul speaks, and it speaks in a language beyond words, a language made of feeling, of knowing, of being. And what it whispers is this: you are already home. What if the very thing you've been searching for has been searching for you too, not in the noise, not in the chase, but in the quiet you keep avoiding? What if stillness is not just a spiritual practice, but a doorway, a sacred threshold where the divine and the human meet, where the veil thins and truth is no longer something you read about, but something you feel vibrating through the marrow of your being? There's a reason the great mystics sat in silence. There's a reason the prophets wandered the desert. There's a reason the sages withdrew from the noise of cities and climbed mountains to find God. It's not because the divine is far. It's because the world is loud, too loud to hear the subtle beauty of the eternal that whispers from within, too loud to feel the sacred pulse of presence moving in every breath, too loud to hear the soul say, I'm still here. I never left. You just forgot how to listen. You don't need a new path. You need a deeper presence. You don't need to run forward. You need to fall inward into the holy quiet where your spirit waits patiently behind the storm of your thoughts. Into the inner sanctuary where truth does not arrive dressed in certainty, but in peace. And that peace, that gentle presence, is the language of clarity. It does not bark orders or deliver perfect blueprints. It simply clears the debris so the light can shine again. And you have always been that light. The confusion, the anxiety, the overthinking, those are just clouds. And clouds, no matter how dark, can never extinguish the sun. The sun just waits. Still, constant, glowing behind the storm, your soul is that sun. Not in need of fixing, just waiting to be seen again. The world has conditioned you to think answers are earned by effort, that truth is something you must chase, something out there just beyond your reach. But the spiritual life is not about chasing anything. It is about remembering what is already within. It is the sacred reversal, the path not of gaining, but of shedding, of unlearning the noise. So you can return to the knowing. And it takes courage to be still. It takes courage to stop distracting yourself with the next thing, the next goal, the next identity. Because when you finally sit in silence, you meet yourself, not the self you show the world, not the self you've polished and performed, but the raw, trembling, holy self that has been whispering beneath the surface all along. Stillness is not easy. It confronts, it reveals, it humbles, it strips away everything that is false. It forces you to see the parts of yourself you've buried beneath achievement and validation. But it is in this seeing, this honest, sacred witnessing that you begin to return home. And that homecoming is clarity. Not the clarity that gives you all the answers, but the clarity that says you don't need them. You already are the answer. There's a kind of wisdom that lives in the quiet. It cannot be found in books or sermons or lectures. It is not taught, it is remembered. It is the wisdom of the trees that do not try to grow but grow. The rivers that do not try to flow but flow. The stars that do not try to shine but shine. What makes them divine is not effort but essence. And what makes you divine is not your doing, but your being. You are the tree, you are the river, you are the star, and you are never more aligned with the truth of life than when you are still enough to simply be. Sit with that. Let it break open the armor of your striving. Let it dissolve the illusion that your worth is somewhere ahead of you. Let it remind you that clarity is not the reward for working harder, but the revelation that comes when you finally stop. And the moment you stop, truly stop, you start to see, you see that your worth has never been in your productivity, that your value has never been in your accomplishments, that your purpose is not something you chase, but something you remember. And what you remember in the stillness is this: you are already whole. You are already held. You are already here. And here is where everything begins. When the mind gets quiet, the heart begins to speak. And it speaks in a different language, a softer one. It doesn't argue or compare or worry. It doesn't say when or if or someday. It says now. It says yes. It says I am. And this I am is the most powerful prayer you will ever whisper. It is not a begging of life to become something else. It is a full-bodied return to what already is. It is the dissolving of ego into essence. It is the surrender of resistance into rest. It is the moment you stop pushing the river and let yourself be carried. So sit. Sit like the mountain sits. Sit like the moon watches. Sit like the ocean waits. Not to escape life, but to merge with it. To merge with the still, unshaken, eternal pulse that has always been inside you. Clarity does not always come in lightning bolts. Sometimes it arrives like dew, soft, slow, and silent, but it nourishes, it renews, it awakens the parts of you that were never dead, just dormant. And in that awakening, you come alive, not as someone else, but as more fully yourself. There is no rush. There is only rhythm, the rhythm of breath, the rhythm of being, the rhythm of love that has no opposite because it was never conditional. The stillness teaches this. It shows you that underneath all your trying is a truth that never needed to be earned. You are the clarity. You are the peace. You are the stillness. And when you stop long enough to feel that, not just understand it, but truly feel it, you begin to live, not from fear, but from presence. Not from need, but from fullness. Not from ego, but from soul. And the soul, the soul does not rush. The soul knows. The soul flows. The soul rests in the silence because it remembers what the mind forgets, that God is not somewhere else. God is here in the stillness, in the breath, in the now. There's something sacred about silence that terrifies the ego. The ego feeds on noise, on proving, achieving, calculating, defending. But the soul is nourished by stillness. The soul doesn't compete. It doesn't grasp or argue. It simply is. It breathes with the universe. It aligns with the eternal. It remembers. And the more you allow yourself to be still, the more you realize how loud your life had become. Not just in volume, but in expectation. Every moment stacked with demands, every thought laced with pressure, every breath taken like it had to accomplish something. But stillness says otherwise. Stillness says, come as you are. Let go of the armor. Lay down the need to be more than you are in this moment. It's enough. You're enough. You see, clarity doesn't need you to be perfect. It only needs you to be present. Present enough to witness what's been underneath all along. Not the story of who you think you are, but the truth of what you've always been. The presence behind the personality, the awareness behind the thoughts, the light behind the identity. When you return to stillness, you return to yourself. Not the self shaped by fear or comparison or past wounds, but the self with a capital S, the infinite spark that existed before the world had a name for you. And that spark doesn't flicker, it burns steady. Even when the mind is in chaos, the soul remains calm. Even when life is uncertain, the spirit stays whole. But we forget. We get caught in the swirl. We mistake the turbulence of our thoughts for the truth of our being. And in that forgetting, we suffer. We chase things that cannot fill us. We climb ladders that lead nowhere. We try to quiet the noise with more noise. But the answer has never changed. The way home has never moved. It waits, always waits in the quiet. So sit in the discomfort if it's there. Sit in the emptiness if that's what rises. Sit even when the mind screams that you should be doing something, especially then. Because the moment you stop running from yourself is the moment you begin to heal. Stillness is not passive. It is the most radical form of alignment. It is choosing to return when the world tells you to run. It is saying, I trust the silence more than the shouting. And in that trust, clarity emerges. Not as a lightning strike, but as a soft unfolding like petals opening to the sun, one breath at a time. Do you feel it? That gentle remembering that you don't have to strive to be worthy. That quiet hum beneath your rib cage that says you're not broken, just buried. That sacred pull inward that whispers, stop trying, just be. That's clarity rising. That's your soul stepping forward after years of waiting for you to pause, to listen, to come home. Because the soul cannot shout over the ego. It will never fight for your attention. It will simply wait. It will wait while you exhaust yourself with proving. It will wait while you perform for love. It will wait while you carry burdens that were never yours to carry. And when you finally put them down, when you sit in the stillness long enough to hear the silence, it will gently say, welcome back. There is no punishment for forgetting, only pain. The pain of being disconnected from your own light. But that pain too is a teacher. It is not here to destroy you. It is here to guide you not toward more doing, but toward deeper being. Every ache, every doubt, every unraveling moment is a breadcrumb leading you back to the stillness where clarity lives. And when you enter that space, something sacred happens. You stop asking life for explanations. You stop begging the universe to make it make sense. You begin instead to trust. Not because you have the answers, but because you no longer need them. You begin to feel the subtle but unshakable truth that you are guided, that you are carried, that you are enough. The world outside may still be loud, but the world within becomes your sanctuary. And from that sanctuary, everything changes. Not because life changes, but because you see it differently. You see it through the eyes of presence, through the lens of love, through the truth of your soul, which was never confused, only unheard. And so you walk differently. You speak with more softness. You listen with more depth. You move with more grace. Not because you're trying to be spiritual, but because you're no longer trying to be anything else. You are finally being what you are, a sacred thread in the fabric of existence, a note in the great song of creation, a soul remembering its light. Stillness teaches you that nothing is missing, that you don't need to chase alignment. You need only remove the noise that's hiding it. You don't need to create purpose. You need only feel the pulse of it that's always been within you. Let go of the idea that clarity is something to be earned. It is not a prize. It is a presence. It arises when you are brave enough to stop, open enough to listen, soft enough to feel. It flows in like a tide, not when you command it, but when you invite it. And it washes away everything that was never true. In the stillness, illusions dissolve, masks fall, armor melts. You become transparent to yourself. And in that transparency, there is nothing left to defend. Nothing left to fix. Nothing left to prove. There is only truth. And the truth is that you are already whole. You always have been. Stillness does not change your life by adding more to it. It changes your life by taking away what never belonged. The false urgency, the inherited fear, the borrowed dreams, the narratives handed to you by a world that confused motion from meaning. Stillness is the great purifier. It doesn't decorate the cage, it dissolves it. And what's left when the cage dissolves? Freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't shout or need permission. The kind of freedom that doesn't come with flags or declarations. The kind of freedom that lives in your breath. Quiet, sacred, unmistakable. It's the freedom of no longer being pulled in 1,000 directions. The freedom of finally hearing your own voice again, after years of listening to everyone else's. The freedom of remembering that you are allowed to choose peace over performance. When you begin to live from stillness, you no longer crave validation in the same way. You no longer bend yourself into versions that fit the room. You no longer ask people to fill the void that only presence can hold. Because you've tasted something deeper. You've touched the well beneath the world's thirst. You've returned to the source, not in theory, but in living, breathing reality. And from that place, everything changes. You love without attachment. You speak without trying to impress. You listen without waiting to respond. You no longer react, you respond, because you are no longer driven by unconscious stories. You are awake now, rooted, still. Clarity strips away the unnecessary. It reveals the essence. And when you see with essence, you don't just see more clearly, you see more kindly. You look at your pain with tenderness instead of judgment. You hold your past with compassion instead of shame. You see other people's anger as fear, their cruelty as confusion, their arrogance as woundedness. And you forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Stillness births this kind of clarity. Not the kind that just makes decisions easier, but the kind that makes the heart softer. The kind that lets you walk through the same world, but with entirely new eyes, eyes that see through illusion, that recognize divine patterns in chaos, that find peace not in the absence of noise, but in the presence of awareness. There is a sacred intelligence moving through this universe. Call it God, call it source, call it life. It is not random, it is not cruel, it is precise, gentle, profoundly aware of what your soul came here to remember. But it doesn't force you. It invites you. It will not wrestle your will to the ground. It will wait. And it waits in the quiet. You want to know who you are? Then be still. Don't just sit with the question. Become the space that no longer needs to ask. That's what stillness does. It doesn't answer your questions, it dissolves them. It doesn't fix your brokenness, it reveals that you were never broken. It doesn't give you new ideas, it clears the fog so truth can rise. Like the sun rising not because it's told to, but because it's what it does. You are not here to be a performer on life's stage. You are not here to be constantly visible, constantly relevant, constantly productive. You are here to be real, to be awake, to be so rooted in truth that nothing outside you has the power to uproot you. And that kind of rootedness comes not from willpower, but from stillness. It's in stillness that you remember the rhythm of life, the inhale and exhale, the expansion and the return, the rise and the rest. You were never meant to run endlessly forward. You were designed to pause, to reflect, to listen, to let the tide carry you back inward before you reach again outward. The clarity that comes in stillness is not about making better plans. It's about no longer needing a plan to feel safe. It's about trusting the unfolding, about letting go of your white-knuckled grip on how you think it should go and leaning fully into the mystery. Because the mystery is not your enemy. It is the birthplace of grace. Do not fear the unknown. Fear missing it. Fear becoming so busy, so distracted, so addicted to noise that you never hear the invitation hiding beneath the surface of your life. The invitation to come home, not to a house, not to a person, not to a belief, but to the timeless space within you that has never been touched by fear. That place is still. That place is whole. That place is where clarity lives. And once you live from that space, the world no longer controls your peace. You no longer chase love, you become it. You no longer fear endings, you trust transitions. You no longer resist what is, you flow with it. And in that flow, everything sacred becomes visible again. The ordinary becomes holy. The mundane becomes miraculous. And so the invitation remains, be still. Not because it's trendy, not because it's spiritual, but because your soul remembers the language of silence. And it's time you did too. You won't find yourself in the next breakthrough, the next relationship, the next success. You will find yourself when you stop running. When you sit in the quiet with nothing to prove, nowhere to get, no one to become, and in that sitting, you will hear the oldest truth echo through your being. You are always it. You were always enough. You are always home. So now, as the breath slows and the noise begins to fade into the background once more, you find yourself standing not at the end, but at the return. The return to what was always real, always waiting, always whispering beneath the rush of the world. This is not a conclusion. This is the moment when all the seeking dissolves and only the stillness remains. And in that stillness, everything becomes clear. You don't need to make life perfect. You don't need to fix every flaw or heal every ache before you are allowed to be at peace. You are allowed now. Not after the storm in it, not once clarity comes, but because clarity comes when you stop demanding it and begin allowing it. The stillness does not erase the journey. It blesses it. It gathers every shattered moment and folds it into a single quiet truth. Nothing was wasted. Every detour was a teacher. Every heartbreak was a mirror. Every silence you avoided was a door back to yourself. You ran, yes. You stumbled. You forgot. But the soul never left you. It simply waited. And now you are ready to listen again. And what does the soul say? It doesn't give you instructions. It doesn't hand you a map. It doesn't require that you understand. It only asks that you trust. Trust the pause. Trust the breath. Trust the invisible rhythm that life has been moving to all along, even when you couldn't hear the music. Let the stillness be your sanctuary now. Let it be your teacher, your guide, your anchor, not once in a while, but always. Let it meet you in the morning before your thoughts begin. Let it hold you at night when your fears return. Let it be the space you return to when the world demands your performance. And you remember, I am not a role. I am not an idea. I am not what others need me to be. I am presence itself. And presence does not perform. Clarity is not a light that flickers on and off depending on your worthiness. It is always shining. It is always speaking. It is we who turn away, we who drown it out. We who run, not because we are lost, but because we forgot we already belong. And now, beloved soul, you remember that silence is not empty, it is full. You remember that surrender is not weakness, it is power. You remember that the pause is not the absence of progress, it is the birth of purpose. You remember that nothing outside you needs to change for you to return home. Because home is not a place, it is a presence. And it lives in you, right here, right now. It always did. So walk on, not with certainty, but with clarity. Not with all the answers, but with the knowing that you are allowed to not know and still be deeply, beautifully whole. Speak less to convince. Listen more to understand. Create not to impress, but to express. Love, not for what it brings back to you, but for the miracle of what it brings out of you. You do not need to be louder. You need to be truer. You do not need to be seen more. You need to see more. You do not need more power. You need deeper peace. And all of it begins and ends in the stillness you were once afraid to sit in. Now you know better. Stillness is not where you lose yourself. It's where you find yourself again. Not the self the world taught you to perform, but the real self, the quiet self, the eternal self, the self that does not need to be explained, only remembered. And so let your next breath be not a rush toward answers, but a return to presence. Let your next moment be not another chase for clarity, but a sacred pause where clarity finds you. You are not here to waste time. You are here to touch eternity, and you do so every time you choose to be still. So be still now, not because the world told you to rest, but because your soul remembered it could. Let this be the moment you stop waiting to arrive and realize you already have. Let this be the end of searching and the beginning of being. Clarity has come, not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you stopped. Because you listened. Because you remembered who you are. And who you are is enough. Always was, always will be, and now you know it. Clarity comes in the stillness. And in that stillness, you are finally free.
We are taught to believe that movement, noise, and constant activity are the essence of life. We live in a world that celebrates the loudest voice, the fastest pace, and the most visible presence. But deep within, the soul speaks a language that is not one of words, not one of action, but one of stillness. And in this stillness, we find the truest expression of who we are. We find our connection to the divine, to the very essence of life itself. Stillness is not silence. Stillness is the language of the soul, a language that transcends the limitations of the mind. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something far greater, the presence of peace, of clarity, of wisdom that rises from the depths of our being. It is in stillness that we are able to hear the subtle whispers of our spirit guiding us on the path of our highest truth. And yet, we live in a world that constantly demands our attention. The noise is everywhere. The distractions are relentless. We are pulled in 1,000 different directions, each one shouting for our focus, for our energy, for our time. The mind races, the emotions swirl, and we find ourselves lost in the chaos of it all. But in the midst of this storm, there is a place of calm, a place where the soul speaks to us in a language that does not require words. Stillness is not something we do. It is something we become. It is the natural state of our being, the essence of who we are when we are free from the noise of the world, when we are free from the distractions of the ego. The ego thrives on movement. It thrives on activity, on the pursuit of external validation, on the constant need for approval and recognition. But the soul does not seek approval. The soul does not need validation. The soul is already whole, already complete, already at peace. When we stop seeking, when we stop striving, when we let go of the need to control, we find that we are carried into a place of stillness. It is in this place that we reconnect with our true selves, with the divine presence that resides within us. In this stillness, we discover that everything we have been searching for was already within us, waiting for us to stop long enough to notice it. Stillness is not a passive state. It is not the absence of action, but rather the presence of intention. In stillness, we are not inactive, but we are deeply aligned with the flow of life. We are in tune with the rhythms of the universe, moving in harmony with the energy of creation. Stillness allows us to respond to life from a place of clarity and wisdom, rather than from a place of reaction and fear. The ego tells us that we must be busy, that we must always be doing, achieving, and striving. But the soul knows that true power lies in surrender, in letting go of the need to control, and in allowing life to unfold naturally. In stillness, we are reminded that we do not have to fight to survive. We do not have to force things to happen. Life flows effortlessly when we allow it to. When we let go of the need to control, we find that the universe responds with grace, with ease, and with infinite abundance. In this stillness, we begin to heal. Healing does not come from external sources. Healing comes from within. It comes from the deep recognition that we are whole, that we are enough, just as we are. The mind tells us that we are broken, that we are flawed, that we need to be fixed. But the soul knows the truth that we are already whole, already complete, already perfect in our imperfection. It is only the ego that needs fixing, for it is the ego that is attached to the illusion of separation, to the belief that we are not enough. Stillness is the gateway to healing because it is in stillness that we reconnect with the truth of who we are. When we silence the mind and the chatter of the ego, we come into direct contact with our true nature. And in this contact, we remember that we are divine beings, that we are made of the same energy that created the stars, the same energy that flows through every living thing. We are not separate from the divine. We are not separate from the universe. We are the universe expressing itself through us. When we embrace stillness, we also embrace the idea that we are not our thoughts. The mind, with its endless stream of thoughts, can create the illusion that we are the sum total of our thoughts, that we are defined by the stories we tell ourselves. But the truth is that we are the observer of the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. In stillness, we can witness the thoughts without identifying with them. We can let them pass like clouds in the sky, knowing that they do not define us. We are the sky, vast and infinite, not the fleeting clouds. The ego wants us to believe that we are our stories, that we are our past, that we are the sum total of our experiences. But the soul knows that we are not our past. We are not the wounds we carry. We are not the mistakes we have made. We are not the roles we have played. We are the space between the thoughts, the stillness that exists when we stop trying to be someone we are not. We are the presence of awareness, the pure essence of being. In this stillness, we find freedom. The ego binds us to the past, to the future, to the fear and the anxiety that arise from our attachment to outcomes. But the soul knows that freedom exists in the present moment. When we are still, when we are fully present, we are free from the shackles of time. We are free from the weight of regret and the fear of what may come. In stillness, we discover that the only moment that truly exists is the one we are living right now. Stillness is the antidote to the restlessness of the ego. It is the cure for the endless striving, the constant seeking, and the unrelenting pressure to do more, be more, have more. In stillness, we come to understand that we do not need to strive to be whole because we already are. We do not need to chase after happiness because it is already within us. We do not need to seek love because we are love. We do not need to search for peace because peace is who we are. Stillness is the gateway to the divine. It is in stillness that we come into direct contact with the source of all life, with the intelligence that created the universe, with the love that sustains all things. When we stop seeking outside of ourselves, when we stop looking for answers in the noise of the world, we find that the answers are already within us. The soul always knows. It knows the way. It knows the truth. It knows the path that will lead us back to ourselves. And so, I invite you to find stillness, not the kind of stillness that comes from escaping the world, but the kind of stillness that arises from within. The stillness that comes when we stop running, when we stop avoiding, when we stop resisting. The stillness that comes when we stop long enough to listen to the voice of our soul, the voice that speaks in silence, in peace, in love. In this stillness, You will find everything you need. You will find clarity. You will find peace. You will find wisdom. You will find the strength to heal. You will find the courage to let go. You will find the freedom to be who you truly are. And in this stillness, you will remember that you are not separate from the divine. You are the divine. You are the expression of love, of peace, of infinite possibility. Stillness is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the language of the soul, and it is the path to your freedom. When you embrace stillness, you embrace yourself. You embrace your divinity. You embrace the truth that you are already enough, already whole, already perfect, just as you are. And in that truth, you will find the peace, the joy, and the love that you have been seeking all along. In this silence, you are invited to let go of the struggle. The soul does not need to fight its way into peace, nor does it need to win approval from the outside world. Peace is not something to be conquered, but something that arises naturally when the mind releases its grip. The world will always beckon you to chase, to compete, to become more than you are. But in the depths of stillness, you realize that you are already everything you need to be. There is no race to win, no prize to gain, just the quiet truth of your own being unfolding effortlessly in the present moment. In this gentle quiet, the noise of your inner battles begins to fade. You are no longer caught in the endless loop of self-criticism or the constant search for improvement. The pull to measure your worth by your achievements starts to soften. And you begin to rest in the realization that you are not defined by what you do, but by who you are. Your value is inherent. It is woven into your very fabric. The stillness invites you to witness this truth, not with the mind, but with the heart. A heart that knows without question that you are enough. Here, in the tranquil presence of the soul, there is no need to be anyone other than who you are. No longer do you need to wear the masks of expectation or bend to the will of the world. You stand in your own light, free from the need for validation or approval. It is in this freedom that your true essence can shine. No longer do you have to prove your worth. The truth of your being speaks louder than any external accolade ever could. As you sit in the stillness, you may feel the pull of the past, trying to remind you of your mistakes, your regrets, and the moments you wish you could change. But the stillness is your sanctuary, where time itself fades into the background. In this space, you realize that your past is merely a collection of experiences, each one contributing to the wisdom you now carry. The stillness helps you see the past not as something to carry with you, but as something that has already been transformed, transmuted into wisdom, and released into the flow of your life. In this moment, as you breathe deeply and connect with your inner stillness, you understand that true freedom lies not in the pursuit of external success, but in the acceptance of your own unfolding. There is no need to chase anything. Everything you have ever sought, love, peace, joy is already within you, simply waiting for you to acknowledge it. The stillness is the doorway through which these treasures are revealed, not as something to be gained, but as something to be remembered. Through stillness, the illusion of separation falls away. You begin to sense that you are not isolated in your journey, but an integral part of the vast web of existence. The boundaries between you and the world begin to dissolve, and you realize that the love, the peace, the wisdom you seek is not somewhere out there, but within you, interwoven with the very core of your being. In the stillness, you are reminded that you are not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through your consciousness. In this quiet presence, healing begins. Healing is not the result of fixing what is broken. It is the realization that there was never anything to fix in the first place. The stillness shows you that your wounds are not your identity, that the scars you carry do not define your worth. In this sacred silence, you remember that you are not broken. You are whole, as you have always been. You are the embodiment of divine perfection, untouched by the illusion of imperfection. And in this remembrance, healing happens effortlessly. It is in the stillness that forgiveness blooms. Forgiveness does not come from the mind or the ego, which are quick to judge and hold on to past pain. Forgiveness arises from the soul, from the heart that knows the truth of love and compassion. It does not excuse the actions that hurt you, but it releases you from the grip of the past. In the stillness, you realize that forgiveness is not a gift you give to others, it is a gift you give to yourself. You let go of the weight of resentment, of anger, and you allow yourself to move forward with a heart full of peace. As you sit in this moment of stillness, you are invited to release all the expectations you have placed on yourself and the world around you. You no longer need to chase after what you think you should be. You can simply be. The stillness asks you to surrender to the flow of life, to trust in the wisdom of your soul, and to let go of the need for control. Life is not something to be conquered. It is something to be experienced, to be embraced. And when you let go of the need to control, you will find that life unfolds with grace, with ease, and with perfect timing. In this stillness, you remember that you are not alone. You are held in the embrace of something much greater than yourself. You are part of the divine dance of the universe, flowing with the rhythm of the cosmos. Your heart beats in harmony with the heart of the world. In this stillness, you know that you are never separate, never disconnected. You are one with the infinite, one with the divine, and in that oneness you find your peace. The stillness is not a place to escape from the world. It is a place to reconnect with it. In the quiet, you begin to see the world through new eyes. You see the beauty in the simple moments, the sacredness in the ordinary. You recognize the divine in everyone and everything, and your heart overflows with compassion. In the stillness, you learn to be present, to truly be here now without clinging to the past or worrying about the future. In this presence, you experience the depth of life's mystery, the profound beauty of every moment, and the eternal truth that all is well. And so, in this stillness, you find yourself. You discover the truth that you are not what the world tells you to be. You are not your thoughts, your past, or your struggles. You are a divine being, already whole, already perfect, already enough. In the stillness, you remember who you are, not as a label, not as an identity, but as the essence of being itself. You are the quiet presence of love, peace, and wisdom. You are the soul unshaken by the storms of life, ever present, ever still. Stillness is the language of the soul. And in this language, you will find everything you have been searching for. It is not outside of you, but within. It is not something you need to achieve, but something you need to remember. In stillness, you will remember the truth of who you are, and in that remembrance, you will find your freedom. And so, let the stillness wash over you. Let it be the balm that heals your wounds. Let it be the space where you reconnect with your divine essence. Let it be the light that guides you through the darkness, the love that lifts you when you fall. And in the stillness, you will find your way home. Stillness is not a destination, but a state of being. It's a space where the soul is allowed to breathe without the interference of the constant chatter of the mind. The mind wants to define, to label, to measure, but in stillness there is no need for any of these. There is only pure experience, the raw, unfiltered moment where you are exactly as you are, and the world around you exists without judgment or expectation. In stillness, there is a deep surrender. The ego, which once fought for control, is allowed to rest. The need to shape the world to your will falls away. And in this surrender, something miraculous happens. You reconnect with your inherent wisdom. You remember that the answers to life's questions do not lie in the hustle, the external noise, or the accumulation of things. They lie in the space between thoughts and the calm of the present moment, in the stillness of your soul. When you stop seeking, you find. When you stop grasping, you receive. In this place of stillness, you are not alone. You are connected to everything, to the universe, to the stars above and the earth beneath your feet. There is no separation. This is the great truth that the ego tries to obscure. You are part of the infinite, the eternal flow of life. Your soul is connected to all that is, and when you realize this, there is a profound peace that washes over you. It is the peace of knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. It is the peace of knowing that you are a thread in the tapestry of the universe, perfectly woven into the design of creation. In the quiet, you begin to understand that your life is not an isolated journey. You are part of a grand, interconnected dance of existence, a dance that stretches across time, across space, across dimensions. Every choice you make ripples out into the world, affecting the whole, and every action you take is a reflection of the divine energy that flows through all things. The stillness shows you this truth, allowing you to see beyond the limited perspective of the ego, to recognize the profound unity that exists between you and everything else. It is this stillness that gives you the strength to release the past. The past is only a story the mind tells itself, and as long as you hold on to it, you are trapped in a loop. But in the stillness, you can let go. You can release the weight of old wounds, the chains of old regrets. In this moment, you are free from the ghosts of the past, free from the need to hold on to pain or resentment. You can forgive, not because you condone the actions of others, but because you choose to free yourself from their hold over you. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door to the present. And in the stillness, you find the strength to forgive, to let go, to move forward. And moving forward in stillness is not a movement of force or effort. It is a movement of flow. It is the art of surrendering to the rhythm of life, of trusting that everything is unfolding as it should. The ego tells you to push forward, to work harder, to strive more. But the soul knows that there is no need for this. Life moves in cycles, in waves, and when you allow yourself to flow with the current, you will always be exactly where you need to be. The stillness teaches you this. It teaches you that you do not have to fight your way through life. You simply have to be, to trust, and to surrender to the flow of the universe. In this space of stillness, there is also a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the simple moments, for the beauty that surrounds you, for the people who cross your path. The ego is quick to judge, quick to compare, quick to find fault. But the soul sees only beauty, sees only connection, sees only love. In stillness, you begin to see with new eyes, eyes that recognize the divinity in all things, the sacredness in the mundane. Every moment becomes a gift. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for love, and every breath becomes a prayer of thanks. It is in stillness that you discover your true power. Power is not the ability to control or dominate. True power is the ability to be at peace, to be centered no matter what is happening around you. The world may throw challenges your way, but in the stillness, you are unshaken. You are like a tree, standing firm in the storm, its roots deep in the earth, its branches reaching toward the sky. No matter how strong the winds blow, the tree remains rooted, steady, and grounded. This is the power that comes from stillness, the power to remain calm, centered, and unshaken, no matter what life presents. And from this power, you begin to see that the world itself is a reflection of your inner state. As within, so without. When you cultivate peace within, peace will radiate out into the world. When you embrace love within, love will be reflected in your relationships, your work, and your environment. The stillness within you creates ripples that extend outward, touching everything you encounter. And in this way, you become a source of peace, of healing, of love in the world. You become the change you wish to see. In this stillness, you remember the truth of who you are. You're not just a body, not just a mind, not just a fleeting identity. You are the eternal soul, a divine spark of consciousness, and this truth transcends all that the world tells you to be. The ego may try to define you by your appearance, your job, your achievements, but none of these things can define you. You are the observer, the witness, the presence that is aware of it all. You are not what you do, but the being that does. You are not what you have, but the essence that has everything. In stillness, you reconnect with this truth. You remember your divine nature, and in this remembrance, you find freedom. And this is the gift of stillness. It brings you home. It brings you back to yourself, back to your truth, back to your soul. In stillness, you find the courage to let go of all that no longer serves you, to shed the layers of fear, doubt, and judgment. In stillness, you find the wisdom to recognize that you are already whole, already perfect, already complete. There is nothing to fix, nothing to change, and nothing to achieve. You are already what you seek. So, I invite you to embrace the stillness, to stop long enough to listen to the voice of your soul, to hear the whispers of the universe, and to reconnect with the divine energy that flows through you. In the stillness, you will find your peace. You will find your power. You will find your truth. And in that truth, you will find everything you have ever been searching for. And now, as we reach the end of this journey, the stillness invites you to simply be. There's nothing more to do, nothing more to prove, and nowhere more to go. You have arrived not in the future, not in a distant destination, but right here in this moment. The stillness has led you back to your true essence, to the quiet knowing that you are enough, that you are whole, that you are already everything you need to be. In this stillness, there is no rush. Life is not something to be hurried through. It is not a race to the finish line. The race ends in the realization that there is no finish line. The journey, in its purest form, is about returning to the self, returning to the stillness, where the soul can breathe, can be, can exist, without the need to chase or seek. The stillness is the arrival point and the starting point, all at once. It is the destination that was never separate from the journey, the home you've always known, waiting for you to come back. The world outside will continue to move, continue to change, continue to pull at you in every direction. The distractions will never cease. But within you, within the sacred silence of your heart, there is a refuge. And in this refuge, you are invincible. Nothing can shake the peace that resides in the stillness. No matter what happens in the external world, the truth of your being, the truth of who you are, remains unchanged, untouched, and eternal. Stillness is not an escape from the world. It is the key to living fully in it. It is not about withdrawing or avoiding. It is about learning to live from a place of deep alignment with your soul. It is about moving through the world with clarity, with purpose, with an open heart, while remaining grounded in the truth that your peace does not depend on anything outside of you. In the stillness, you realize that everything you need, every ounce of love, every bit of wisdom, every thread of courage already resides within you. You are complete. You are the embodiment of divine wisdom. And from this place of deep knowing, you can live freely, joyfully, and authentically. You are not the fear that has held you back. You are not the doubts that have clouded your path. You are not the judgments that have defined you. You are the stillness beneath it all. You are the peace that transcends it all. The mind may try to create a story, may try to define your reality with labels and limits, but the soul knows no limits. The soul is free. And in this freedom, you find your power. When you sit in stillness, you find the courage to let go of the past. The past is a shadow, a whisper of a life that no longer exists. You are not the person you once were, nor are you the mistakes you once made. In stillness, you rise into the truth of who you are now, in this present moment, and in this moment alone is all that you need. The past is gone. The future is unknown. The only thing that exists is the present moment. And in the present, you are whole, you are free, and you are enough. The stillness has already begun to work its magic. You may not see it, but it is there in every corner of your being. It is in the quiet of your heart, the peace of your mind, and the calm of your spirit. You may not notice it at first, but as you move through your days, you will begin to feel its presence more deeply. In the stillness, you will begin to understand that you are not alone, that you are part of something much greater than yourself. The universe is speaking to you, whispering its truths in the silence. And as you listen, you will find that your life begins to unfold in the most beautiful, unexpected ways. And so, I leave you with this. Return to the stillness whenever you can. It is not a destination. It is the space between your thoughts. It is the quiet center of your being. It is the infinite peace that exists beneath the surface of your mind. In this space, you will find the truth of who you are. In this space, you will find your power. And in this space, you will find your freedom. The stillness is not something you have to search for. It is already within you, waiting for you to notice. It is always available, always present, always there. All you need to do is stop, breathe, and listen. When you do, you will discover that everything you need has been within you all along. You are the stillness. You are the peace. You are the love. You are the wisdom. And in this truth, you will find the courage to live your life with grace, with purpose, and with an open heart. So, let the stillness guide you. Let it be your compass. Let it be your home. And from this place of stillness, move forward with the knowing that you are already enough, already whole, and already free.